The countdown has begun. NASA announced that the 350-meter-long asteroid Apophis is heading towards Earth in 5 years. Specialists are currently working tirelessly to prepare for the rendezvous with this space threat, but what could we do in the event of an impact? Would we be defenseless in the face of the death and annihilation that such an asteroid would trigger, or are there ways to avert the space peril? This is exactly the question the NASA faculty faces. That's why they recently developed an emergency plan to deal with an asteroid that has a 72% chance of hitting us. It was on June 19, 2004, that an entry was added to the list of cosmic threats. On that date, astronomers Roiker David Toln and Fabrizio Bernardi from the Public Observatory of Pactop succeeded in identifying an S-type asteroid with a diameter of 350 meters, composed primarily of silicate rocks and iron-nickel alloys. However, it wasn't the composition of the object that made headlines. Initial observations had already shown that the asteroid would pass very close to Earth on April 13, 2029. As a result, the discoverers decided to give the object an appropriate name. Apophis, the ancient Egyptian god of destruction, darkness, and chaos, a bad omen. Who knows? But it is certain that Apophis would live up to its destructive name. In the event of an impact, specialists have determined that the asteroid would release 900 megatons of dynamite upon crashing. To put this into perspective, the largest nuclear blast caused by humans, the detonation of the Tsar Bomba, had a value of 50 megatons of dynamite. The consequences of an impact by Apophis on Earth would depend on several key factors: the exact structure of the asteroid, as well as the location and angle of impact. If the asteroid were to strike Earth, it would likely create a death zone with a radius of 250 kilometers. Outside of this zone, the chances of survival would be relatively high. If the impact occurred in the water, nearby coastal inhabitants would have to prepare for massive tidal waves, exceeding 100 meters in height. But could Apophis become the next Chicxulub asteroid? In other words, could the impact of this asteroid trigger a global extinction event, like the one that happened 66 million years ago? Fortunately, experts have given a green light in this regard. For a global extinction event to occur, the energy from Apophis's impact would need to be 100 times more powerful than what is currently assumed. Is the threat real? In December 2004, the probability of an impact was estimated at 1/37, or 2.7%. However, after further data analysis and improvements in measurements, a crash with the asteroid in 2029 is now considered unlikely. Nonetheless, it's important to note that Apophis will not make contact with Earth just once, but multiple times over the coming decades. As the object orbits the Sun, it will also come particularly close to our planet in 2030 and 2068, at an astronomical distance of about 35,000 kilometers. During its next approach, Apophis will pass just below the geostationary satellite orbit, making it visible even to the naked eye. Because of this, some astronomers feared that this close encounter could alter the asteroid's trajectory and lead to a potential impact in 2036. However, after more precise orbit calculations and further studies, specialists announced that there is no immediate danger of impact with Apophis, at least during the century. But then, the Yarkovsky effect came into play. In the spring of 2020, David Toln's team, who had been among the asteroid's discoverers, detected a series of decisive changes that raised concerns. Using the Subaru telescope on Mauna Kea, Hawaii, researchers realized that Apophis was not where it was expected to be. New observations showed that the object was shifting its orbit by about 170 meters per year, a deviation caused by solar radiation. According to this hypothesis, the Yarkovsky effect occurs because different sides of the asteroid heat up to different degrees depending on its rotation speed and direction. This causes it to drift slightly inward or outward due to radiation pressure. Nevertheless, NASA announced a few months later that, based on new observational data, there is no risk of impact from Apophis in 2068. The asteroid's case, as we mentioned, is largely dominated by apocalyptic scenarios that it might eventually provoke. But we quickly forget that Apophis also offers specialists a unique research opportunity. The approach of such a large object to Earth happens, on average, only once every 100 years. To properly welcome this galactic visitor, A team from the University of Würzburg is currently working on 3 different mission ideas involving small satellites to observe Apophis more closely. The NALITE project could help solve some fundamental questions regarding asteroids, such as their structure, the influence of their trajectories, gravitational interactions with other objects, and most importantly, the question of how to prevent an impact. In an effort to get closer to these answers, the Würzburg research team, led by Aiken Kale, is considering developing a small satellite that would observe Apophis for 2 months on its way to its closest approach to Earth, then accompany it for several weeks. The changes in the asteroid could thus be directly captured in images and complemented with detailed measurements. However, such an undertaking would represent a colossal operational task. The second approach is called Ramses. In this mission, a large satellite would be equipped with a small telescope and other measuring instruments and would set its course for Apophis. However, the implementation of the Ramses mission is still up in the air. The third approach involves launching a single small satellite that would only fly over the asteroid once and document it photographically during its closest approach to Earth. This mission would be relatively inexpensive, but the knowledge gained would likely be minimal. The researchers hope to announce their decision next year. As we've noted, we are safe from an asteroid impact at least for the rest of the century, but what about the alarming headlines that have been circulating on the web recently? Some of these headlines read, for example, probability of an asteroid impact in 2038 at 72%, or an asteroid to strike Earth on July 12, 2038. How should we categorize these ominous headlines? Has the moment of panic finally arrived? Well, it is undeniable that the scenario being proclaimed is indeed based on an official NASA announcement, but it is also clear that it's a purely theoretical exercise designed to help specialists better prepare for an emergency situation. And this isn't new. NASA has been conducting its asteroid emergency exercises every 2 years since 2016. This time, NASA's JPL Center for Earth Object Studies had specified a scenario involving an asteroid several hundred meters in size crashing into Earth in 14 years with a 72% probability. The potential impact areas would include sparsely populated regions of North America, Southern Europe, and Northern Africa. To make matters worse, the hypothetical fragment would pass too close to the Sun during its orbit. Months passed, and it became very difficult to be a spectator in this context. It was up to the 100 members to develop strategies for defending against asteroids, managing public relations, and preparing for disasters. However, in the end, the main conclusion was that we are currently not particularly well prepared for the worst-case scenarios. A fundamental standard problem is that the management of such a scenario is absolutely unclear, both in the United States and the rest of the world. Procedures in the event of an asteroid impact are not clearly defined, even though there is a planning commission supported by the United Nations. The space mission planning and warning gathering members in the exercise didn't really know what role they were playing. Moreover, it was quite difficult to sustain asteroid defense efforts over a 14-year period, especially with political leadership changes, budget shifts, and the distracting impacts of global events causing turmoil. But despite all the weaknesses and gaps revealed, NASA drew a positive conclusion. In a list of references, they stated that the exercise helped highlight the nature of the asteroid danger and the challenges of preparing an effective international response. Among the final recommendations were better communication on the role of the SMPAG, the execution of more exercises, and the preparation of messages for the public in case of a real threat. It should indeed be possible to evaluate and respond better to celestial bodies that may pose a danger in the future. NASA plans to launch the Close-to-Earth Object Surveyor, a space telescope, which will look for new near-Earth asteroids by the summer of 2028. The search for the asteroid should be completed quickly. Press the like and subscribe buttons now to never miss an exciting video from us.